I like to see that with that guitar in it. Get video footage, I guarantee you. How deep your Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing walls, the fall that turns His face away, as wounds which mark the chosen one, bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon His shoulders. Ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held Him there, until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, His death and resurrection. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. His wounds have paid my ransom. Amen.
He had a southern drawl like a red bone. Every song he sang was my favorite sound. He'd be the last one off if the ship went down. The kind of man that feels good to be around. The kind of man that feels good to be around. He had hair as white as a cotton wool, and he could spin you a story like a wagon wheel. He never went nowhere without his running reel. Lord, I miss that man, I always will. Yeah, I miss that man, I always will. He see through my life like an old screaming Lord. He taught me how to run and how to let the Lord. He carried a bow and a 44. No, they just don't make it like that no more. No, they just don't make it like that no more. He said, take what you gotta do the best you can. The best thing you will ever own is a piece of land. And y'all, he knew his like the back of his hand. Kind of man that feels good to be around. The kind of man that feels good to be around. shaking his hand. Y'all strumming his guitar as I'm shaking his hand. He see through my life like an old screen door. He told me how to kind of let go. He carried a Bible and a 44. Now they just don't look like that no more. Now they just don't look like that no more. Alright, so I'm gonna sing one more. And I wrote this next song, and I ain't sang this one yet. And Mama first heard it in my room when I was practicing this morning. I'm 16 now, but I'm 16 and I have went through a lot. Oh Jesus, I'm gonna cry. I had a cousin who's not my best friend. He killed himself. My grandfather died when I was 10. I have a lot of anger in that built up. And I wrote this song. It's called Remember, because even in these times with the coronavirus, we need to remember that God's in control. He's in control of every situation. Feel like I remember she did it all to me first. I feel like giving up, 'cause I'm just not enough. But oh, I remember.
I'm glad y'all are here today, the faithful few. There's just so much going on in the world today, and I think that God has something special for us here today, specifically for the fact that I saw a video this week of, everybody knows who Billy Graham is, right? So I was asking myself, what should I preach on? And earlier this week, I saw this video of Billy Graham. And somebody shared, they said, they shared it on Facebook, and they said, this is a message that applies today. And it is. And I preached this message 8 months ago, but I'm putting a spin to it, a different spin to it. And so it's going to be Habakkuk, if you have your Bibles. Habakkuk is the small, stuck together pages in the Bibles that nobody goes to. But I believe that God had me up this morning at 5 o'clock singing a sad song for some reason. and then Lexi started talking. I was like, man, this stuff just goes hand in hand. And so it's amazing how God works stuff out for our betterment. So in Habakkuk, while you're flipping there, I'll flip there too. I'll open us up in a word of prayer. Dear Lord God, we just want to come to you right now and thank you for another day on this earth. Thank you for everything and everyone that you give us, God. And thank you for your mercy, your forgiveness, God. Just want to pray and praise you, God. Because you are a holy, holy, holy God that is in control of all situations in our lives. And you have a will for every one of us, God. Help me, give me the words to say, give me where I fail you every day. In Jesus Christ's holy name, amen. In Habakkuk chapter number 1, so Habakkuk is a book in the Bible. It's written by the prophet Habakkuk. And it is written during a time where sin and all kinds of stuff is rampant. All kinds of things are happening in Israel. And Habakkuk says in chapter number 1, verse number 1, he says the burden. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a burden in your life? Have you ever had something that you had to carry that is hard? A weight that is hard in your spirit? And like one of them weights that you start talking about and you start crying for some reason. You have that burden. Well, Habakkuk has that burden. And by the way, it's not a sin to be sad sometimes. You know, we live, everybody says, you know, you got to be happy. Sometimes it's all right to be sad. You know, many people in the Bible, many men in the Bible, great men of God, were men that were acquainted with sorrow and grief and were frequently depressed. I'm preaching on, about one tonight in Lamentations. Jeremiah was called the weeping prophet because he weeps so much. He cried so much. When I think of the weeping prophet, I think of Brother Richard. He didn't hear me there. He cries a lot. And I think that's amazing. If a man gets up here and preaches the Word of God and he starts crying because how it touches him, that's a great thing. And and Habakkuk was in this depressed state of mind, and he said, the burden which Habakkuk, the prophet, did see. So he saw a burden, and he said, oh Lord, how long? That's another thing I want you to ask yourself. Have you ever said, how long to God? How long do I have to go through this? How long are you going to put me through this? How long is this trial going to come? He said, how long shall I cry? He was crying. He said, and you will not hear. Even cry unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not say. Let me ask you a question. Another question. Have you ever cried and you felt like God has not heard you? And I'm not just talking about just like a simple prayer. Simple prayer is good, but have you ever cried out to God, like tears? Have you ever hit the floor on your knees and you're like, God, I need you to do this? And then you get up, and sometimes you feel like you conquered the world, but then you get up, sometimes you feel like your prayers might have hit the ceiling. Has anybody ever been there? It says, yeah. He says, oh Lord, how long shall I cry? How long shall I go through this and you will not hear me? I can tell you many times I pray about certain subjects in my life, and I pray about it for years and years and years, and I find out that God still has not answered them prayers to this day. Many prayers that I've teared up and cried out to God more than I've cried out to anybody else in my whole life, and God still does not answer. Habakkuk was that way. He said, oh Lord, you will not hear. Even cry unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Have you ever looked at the news? I'm going to ask you a lot of questions today. Have you ever looked at the news and you've seen violence? And you're like, goodness gracious. And like you get mad sometimes with righteous anger. Maybe it's a rapist or a murderer. And you say, God, where are you at? Why are you letting this stuff happen? And Habakkuk was seeing this thing in Israel. He's like, God, why are you letting this happen? I thought you were a good God. I thought you were a just God. Where are you? And it says, why do you show me iniquity? Why do you show me sin and cause me to hold grievance? Why do you, this is what he's saying, why do you put me through so much weariness? Why do you put me through so much things that make me depressed? Why do you put me through all of this hard stuff? Why are you letting me see all of this hard stuff? It says, why do you show me iniquity and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence and are before me, and they are there that raise up strife and contention. He says, I've seen tons of bad people, basically. He said, therefore the law is slack. So he says, God, you write all these things in your word. You write your 10 commandments. But guess what? People are disobeying them. And you're not doing anything about it. Where are you? Where are you? Have you ever been there? And he says, therefore the law is slack and judgment is never gone forth. He said, for the wicked compasses about the righteous. You know, this kind of sounds like the book of Job. And Job had this problem. He said, why do the wicked flourish in this world? Why did all the wicked people, all the bad people in this world, why are they the corrupt politicians? Why are they the people that are living $1 million lifestyles? And me, I'm going to church every day. I'm trying to obey you, Lord. Why are you letting me go through what I go through? He said, and so the dialogue in Habakkuk switches. That's Habakkuk talking right there. But in verse number 5, it's God about to say something. Behold, you among the heathen. Imagine God calling you a little heathen. He says, behold, you among the heathen. I feel like he says that to me sometimes. Malachi, you're such a heathen. He says, behold among the heathen and regard and wonder marvelously. He said, for I will work a work in your day, which you will not believe, though it be told you. And so this work that God was doing, that God was raising up in Habakkuk's time, Habakkuk was crying because of all the unrighteousness that is going on in Israel. And God said, just be quiet, you little heathen. He said, I am working something out. I am raising up, and what he did was, you can follow this when you go home and read the later verses. He said, I am raising up the Chaldeans, which were a great nation, great military strength. I kind of think America when I say great military strength. We have one of the most powerful armies in the whole world. And so he was raising up an America-like nation, and he was going to destroy, not really destroy, but punish Israel for their sins. And so he was working all this, and guess what? Habakkuk didn't know about it. Have you ever, I know I'm a kid, and so I asked my parents stuff, and they, I'm nosy, I'm very nosy. and so I asked my parents stuff, and they're like, son, you don't have to know that. I feel like God tells us that sometimes. Son, you don't have to know what I'm doing. He says, he told Habakkuk, for I will work in your days which you will not even believe. And let me ask you a question. So, can God lie? No. He says, for I will work a work among you in your days. So he told them, I will do something. And guess what? He did do something. He didn't lie about it. And so, that message that Billy Graham was preaching was the Habakkuk chapter number 1, and it was fitting for what's going on right now. You might ask, why is the coronavirus going rampant? I don't know the answer to that. but the fact is that God has a reason for it. I'm not saying everything that happens in life is God's destiny. I'm not saying, if you go out tomorrow and lay with a bunch of people, and you come back here Monday and you have STDs, God didn't give you STDs, you did that to yourself. If you smoke 10 packs a day and you come out with lung cancer, God didn't give you lung cancer, you gave yourself lung cancer. But what I am saying though is that God can take a mess and take it into a masterpiece. He can take what was meant for evil and do it for good. And God has a will in everything that goes on in our lives. Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to His purpose. And so that verse says, that is Paul's opinion on suffering. He says, for I know that all things, can you say all things? All things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to His purpose. So if you're in here today and you're a Christian and you love God, God does not let a single day go by in your life that He doesn't use for the betterment of you. And I think back to my brother, I shared a message on Facebook, and it was actually about Romans 8:28 that I preached in 2016. And I look back on my life, and there are times where 9 years ago, I was in the hospital room, and I started crying, didn't know why the doctor said my brother might not live. I didn't know why my brother had heart issues. I didn't know why my family was being put through this. I didn't know why God chose to put a child here that has to suffer and go through heart surgeries and go through all these things. I didn't know the reason for that. And I still partially don't. God's plan is not always revealed 100%. You know, and so, but then I look back at it, and if I was in a private school then, if my brother wasn't born, my mom would not have had to quit her job, which means I would not have moved from a private school to a public school. If I wouldn't moved to a public school, I wouldn't have met a girl that invited me to church. And if that girl didn't invite me to church, I wouldn't have got saved. And if I wouldn't have got saved, I don't know where I'd be right now, to be honest with you. And so God saved me, but He also healed me when I was in the hospital with my brother a couple years later. They found out that I had a heart problem, so I wouldn't be here today probably physically if the doctor didn't find out that I had a heart problem. That was all because of the birth of my brother. And then I also wouldn't be here preaching today also because if I wasn't invited to church at this church, I wouldn't have been in a church camp 3 or 4 years ago where I learned that I was supposed to preach the gospel. And so God works mysterious things out.
Amen.
That song that I was singing this morning, Zach Wade actually, me and Zach started hanging out before he left for Louisiana a lot, and he showed me songs and he said, man, this song had me fighting with God one night. And so it's called Though You Slay Me by Shane and Shane. It's a Christian group, and it says, though you slay me, yet I will praise you. Though you take from me, I will bless your name. And have you ever felt like God took something from you? Whether it be a family member, whether it be God, you're sick, so God took your health from you. Have you ever felt that way? But it says, I will bless your name. Though you ruin me, still I will worship. Sing a song to the one who's all I need. You know, sometimes God has to take things from us. And sometimes God puts stuff in our way to realize that He is the only thing we ever needed. We always focus on these outward things, but God is the only thing that we ever needed. And this can go for worldly problems. When you look at the whole world and ask why the coronavirus is rampant, God is doing something great in the world. And I don't believe God's going to end the world right now, like as I speak. But I do believe we are in the last days. You'd be stupid not to think that. So I think that God is setting stuff up for the end of the world. So I believe that's a great work, because I'm ready to get to heaven. I'm honestly ready to get to heaven and to see Him and have no more suffering, have no more crying, have no more all these things. And so not only is God working a work, as He said in Habakkuk, then He's working a work now, He's also working a work in each one of our lives here today. Whether it be through sickness or through health. I sound like I'm officiating a wedding, don't I? Through sickness or health. God has His way in our lives. Whether through death or through life, God has His will in our life. And Paul actually said, in the New Testament, he said, even if I die, I only want one thing out of my life. I want that God be glorified through my death. And so even through life or death, God has a will for every one of your lives here today. Through all the sorrow, through all the pain, God has a reason for it. And I also think, I don't know the reason why God would have you suffering or have sickness in your life, but let me tell you. Has anybody ever heard of Charles Spurgeon? Charles Spurgeon was a great man of God. He preached and pastored a church at 18. And so I kind of sympathize with that because he was a young preacher. And so he says, trials this is what he says, trials teach us what we are. They dig up the soul and let us see what we are made of. You know, a person without trials is a person with no character. If you have no trials in your life, you have no character. If you have no suffering in your life, you have no character. So God might be adding character to your personality that might be used to impact somebody one day. You know, there are tons of issues that we go through on a daily basis that the next generation will say, how did you go through that? And you can say, I got through with God. I found out that He was all that I needed. And then he also said, trials make more room for consolation. There is nothing that makes a man have a big heart like a great trial. I always find that little miserable people whose hearts are about the size of a grain of mustard seed never have had much to try them. I have found that those people who have no sympathy for their fellows, who never weep for the sorrow of others, very seldom have any woes of their own. Great hearts can only be made by great troubles. And so basically what I said, it sums up what I said, that a person without trials is a person without character. So God might be working a work in your life through all of your trials. You know, personally, I relate that song that Zach showed me. Zach he was referring to the death of his mother. You know, Zach, his mother died while he was still a kid. And so Zach sympathized with that. He said, God, why did you take away my mother? I've seen countless dreams and goals in my life that God had just taken shattered. But guess what? God is working something great in my life. I refuse to think that I will be nothing in life. Even if nobody remembers my name, I hope somebody remembers the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
And so God is working a great thing in your life. Brother Richard, you can come up and sing a song.